Welcome to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.
Hi, everyone. You're listening to the Sports Scouting Report. I'm your host, Lee Brecheen. Excited to have our guest today. You know, I've been in the business for 25 years in football. A lot of people don't realize I'm a baseball guy. I don't miss my baseball games. I don't miss the LSU games. I went to my first LSU game when I was 5 years old, and I remember only 10 fans in the stadium. And then I remember Ben McDonald pitching, and it got a little bit bigger, you know, at Skip. And then now, Coach Paul Mainieri, national champion coach in 2009 over those Texas Longhorns, our current head baseball coach at LSU, has won close to 1,500 games, joins us today. Paul Mainieri, thanks for joining us.
Lee, it's great to be with you.
Talking some baseball. You know, a lot of people don't realize that I'm a baseball guy too, and you know, I followed LSU over the years. My favorite player as a hitter was Todd Walker. And I don't know, I just went to a lot of games where Todd and Russ Johnson was playing. I know you had Bregman, and you've had several players, but just remember the great games at LSU, you know, with Skip, and then now with your team. I've been to a lot of the games that you have coached as a head coach, and you've won 4 SEC titles, 6 SEC tournament titles. I mean, pushing almost 1,500 wins before this year's over. What a career, Coach. I mean, going back to your days in Miami, playing for your dad and at Miami-Dade Community College, junior college there, but what's it been like? I mean, you wake up today and you're like, I'm almost a head coach with what? You've almost coached 3,000 games. That's a lot of games.
Well, you know, Lee, thank you, first of all. I feel like really any minute now my mother is going to shake me and wake me up and tell me it's time to go to school, and my life has just been one big dream. I've just been so fortunate. I've had a wonderful life. You know, those numbers that you throw out just indicate that I'm getting old now, 63 years old. This is my 39th year as a head coach, but I've just been so fortunate throughout my career. I grew up in Miami, Florida. My dad, when he retired from coaching after a 30-year career, was basically regarded as the greatest junior college coach in history, being the first coach to 1,000 career wins and won a national championship. He had 5 near misses, his second and third place finishes, and he produced about 30, 40 players that got to the major league. So he was really a legend down in South Florida, and all my life I just grew up wanting to play for him someday. And then the school that wore purple and gold uniforms, recruiting was much different back then, but they came down to Miami and I met the coach, and they offered me a scholarship to come to Baton Rouge. And so I came to LSU as a freshman. But the program at that time, Lee, this is hard for you to believe maybe because you're a little bit younger than I am, but at the time the baseball coach was a guy by the name of Jimmy Smith, and a wonderful human being. Yeah. But his main job was he was the equipment manager for the football team.
That's crazy.
So essentially he was a part-time baseball coach. So the intensity of the baseball program was not quite what it is now. It was, you know, they won the SEC championship in my senior year in high school. But when I got here, I just felt, you know, those heartstrings were tugging on me. And so after my freshman year, I went back and played for my dad. And that was a good experience. But of course, my eligibility was up. And so I ended up looking at different schools, and ironically ended up back in the state of Louisiana at the University of New Orleans, where I played for the great Ron Maestri. And Ron became a tremendous mentor for me. I always looked for a coach. I always wanted to play for a coach and look for a coach that I could learn a lot from, because I wanted to have a career in coaching myself. Yeah. And of course, I grew up the son of a great coach, but I wanted to learn from somebody else. And I had the great fortune of playing for Ron Maestri my junior and senior years. So, it's been great. You know, after I played a little bit of professional baseball, started my coaching career down in Miami at a small school. And my coaching has taken me from that little school in Miami, St. Thomas University, to being the first civilian baseball coach at the United States Air Force Academy, and then on to Notre Dame for 12 years, and then the pinnacle of all, to become the coach at LSU 15 years ago. So as I mentioned, 39th year now, and my 15th at LSU, and I've loved every minute of it.
1976, Coach, when you played at LSU for baseball, and your dad won his national championship in 1964 at Miami-Dade. I'm doing my homework a little bit for you there, Coach.
Yes, you have.
And then you were at Air Force from 89 to 94, Notre Dame from 95 to 2006, and at St. Thomas from 83 to 88, and now at LSU 2007. Wow, time has flown by.
It's unbelievable.
Getting back to your dad, Coach, and I know that you were quoted as saying that he was your best friend and mentor. He was. It was 2019 was a tough year for you. You lost your dad, and you, Demie, your dad was. That was just a tough year. I know that's tough. That was tough on you.
Well, my dad was my best man at my wedding, and really my best friend. He's somebody that I talked to, after I was grown and gone and coaching, I guess because we were in the same profession, and he was, obviously not only a wonderful father, but the mentor of my professional career. And probably, I bet in the first 2,000 games that I coached in college, I probably called him after 1,500 of those games just to get his analysis of the game. So, when he started to lose his capabilities a little bit, that was very traumatic for me. Lee, it was a big adjustment, and then he passed in 2019. And, he passed in the morning, and it was obviously a very difficult morning for me. And we had a game that afternoon.
Yeah.
And, my wife and my mom were there with me and my brother, and they were like, you're not going to coach today. And I said, the heck, I'm not. If Dad was alive right this moment, he would tell me, you better, get out to that field. Your players are counting on you. And so I went out and coached that afternoon. It was probably the most difficult day that I ever had on a baseball field. But I got through it, and just really grateful that I had a wonderful father for as long as I did.
Coach, I want to mention before we go to break and come back that Coach Mainieri played at a high school known for producing football players too, Christopher Columbus High School in Miami.
Oh, yeah.
Well, very famous person name there for the Miami high school area. Great high school.
Well, I played there, and when I played there, we weren't very good. But when I coached there, we were really good. Our quarterback was Mike Shula, and we had great football players like Alonzo Highsmith, and we had three defensive linemen that played in the NFL. So they're down there dominating South Florida football now, and I'm really proud of them. But I'm glad I was there when I was there, because if I was there a few years later, I probably would have never got an opportunity to play.
That's right, Coach. Look, we take a break. When we come back, I want to ask you about the late Tommy Lasorda, what he meant to you and your family.
Okay.
And also, I was a fan of his arguments with taking the hat off and drubbing the dirt on the ground. Him and Billy Martin were my favorites with the Yankees. We'll be right back. We've got head coach Paul Mainieri from LSU Baseball here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We'll be right back. Listen, whatever you're driving right now, Tommy Harvey wants it. Bring it in to Harvey Subaru, Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City, or John Harvey Toyota. They're paying big bucks for all trades right now. They'll cut you a check right there. Tell them Lee sent you.
Baseball talk.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Sports Scouting Report. Our guest today is our head baseball coach at LSU, Paul Mainieri. Coach, talk about another tough time for you. Tommy Lasorda recently passed away, one of the icons of baseball, but not just an icon, but a very close friend of the family, like family to you.
Well, I mentioned before the break, Lee, how I grew up the son of a coach, and my father was, everything to me. And then I had the great privilege of playing for Ron Maestri when I was at the University of New Orleans. And then when I went into coaching, I actually got my first coaching job at 25 years old. And a year later, I met Tommy Lasorda down in Miami at an event. And I don't know why Tommy took an interest in me and we liking in me, I guess. But we started to spend a lot of time together. And over the next 38 years, really, I spent an inordinate amount of time with Tommy. I even sat in the dugout in a Dodger uniform on several occasions, right next to him while he managed major league games. I, stayed in his hotel room with him many times during spring training and on trips, and just learned so much about every aspect of managing people. And so he became really like a second or third father for me, if you count Ron Maestri in the group, and a tremendous mentor. I love the man so much. My youngest son, Tommy, is named after Tommy Lasorda, and Tommy Lasorda is his godfather. And so, when Tommy passed recently, obviously that was another big loss for me, a very emotional time. It was like losing my dad all over again. Yeah. And, I felt about with my father, I just felt very grateful to have them in my life for as long as I did. You have to be your own person, but you obviously keep a lot of the qualities and try to emulate a lot of the things that you learn from the people that you respect the most.
Yeah.
And I hope I've learned a lot from them, and I hope I can pass those lessons on not only to my own children, but to the players that play for me, and teach them what it takes to be successful, not only on the baseball field, but in the game of life as well. And hopefully, I'm doing a decent enough job that would make them proud.
I remember some of his colorful players like Fernando, Venezuelan pitcher, and also Earl Hershiser. What a great pitching unit he had over the years, and he had some great batters. And, man, I went to a couple of Dodger games, Paul, in the early 2000s. That was interesting when they get those blue, like these little rubber bats, and they start shaking them, and there's like 30,000 people, and they're very loud. I mean, people don't realize that till you go to a Dodgers game. It was a loud experience back in that day. Piazza, it was one of Piazza's last years at catcher.
Well, Mike Piazza played for my father in junior college.
Oh, I didn't know that. Whoa. Okay.
And then I signed him to a scholarship to come and play for me at St. Thomas University.
I didn't know that. Whoa. Okay.
And Mike was a first baseman playing for my father, and the deal was that I signed him to come and play at St. Thomas, and I was going to convert him to be a catcher. And before he came to play for me, that summer, I was named the coach at the United States Air Force Academy, and Mike got drafted in the 62nd round by the L.A. Dodgers.
Wow.
And Lasorda tells everybody it was his idea to make him a catcher, but the truth is that I told him to make him a catcher. And,
you can do that.
And now obviously the rest is history. And Michael went on to have a Hall of Fame career, and we're all really proud of him.
Oh, he was a great one. Wow, what a hitter, too, for a catcher, huh? God, he had some power and some ability to hit. Take another quick break. When we come back, Coach, I want to ask you about these scholarship limitations. Even though there's some carryover from the COVID, you got a bigger roster, it's still something that maybe we can put out there for people to hear. The 11.7 scholarships, which is just not a lot to manage for you as a coach every year, to sign, players and try and get guys in for tops and make it work. It's tough. We'll be right back. We've got head coach Paul Mainieri for LSU Baseball. We'll be right back. Looking for a used car? Harvey Autos has 3 dealerships, which means 3 times the used vehicles. They've got everything from fuel-efficient compacts to luxury models, even hybrids, and certified pre-owned with a warranty. Check out John Harvey Toyota, Harvey Subaru, or Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City. Welcome back. You listen to the Sports Scouting Report. I'm your host, Lee Brecheen. Our guest today is Paul Mainieri, the head baseball coach at LSU. There are 299 Division I baseball programs in the country, 299, and they only have 11.7 scholarships. You've got to give 25% minimum per player, and when you break them up, and the baseball gods, at some point, this needs to go to 16, huh, Coach, or 17. I mean, I don't know how you manage your roster every year.
Well, I'll tell you, Lee, it's one of the more challenging aspects of our profession in college coaching, college baseball coaching. Just to give you a little bit of history, there used to be there used to be a limit of 25 scholarships. And then it was cut back. When I came to LSU, it was 19 full scholarships. And then it was cut back to 13 full scholarships. Okay. And then a commission was put together of all presidents of universities. This was many years ago, maybe 3 decades now. And they decided as a cost saving measure. They would cut scholarships in all sports 10% across the board. So 10% of 13 was 1.3. So you subtract 1.3 from 13. That's how we came up with the number 11.7. When you have 35, 40 players on a team and you only have 11.7 scholarships, it's pretty ridiculous when you think about it. Kids are having to pay so much money, even if they're on scholarship, to attend school. And believe me, they work as hard or harder than athletes of all the other sports that are receiving full scholarships. And yet we're having to compete with professional baseball for the very best players coming out of high school. So you can imagine if a professional team drafts you and offers you $500,000 or $1 million, and your choice is between accepting that money or paying money to go to school to play, it causes us to lose the better players to professional baseball every year, which makes it so frustrating for us, because you out-recruit all the other SEC schools or Texas schools or whatever for a really outstanding ball player, and then that player never makes it to campus because, he's getting a 50% scholarship and he got drafted and was offered $1 million to sign for professional baseball. And, this is what is keeping our sport back a little bit. If I had a full scholarship that I could offer to a player and know that he wasn't going to go into professional baseball, can you imagine with our history and tradition at LSU, how many really outstanding players we could attract to LSU? We'd have a team filled with guys like Dylan Cruz and Alex Bregman and DJ LeMahieu. But it's a rare occasion when those kind of guys show up to school because they're having to turn down a significant amount of money as a signing bonus for professional baseball in order to go to college. But for those individuals, the desire to have the experience of the entire college experience outweighs that signing bonus that they would have received. But it doesn't happen all the time that way. So, it's a frustrating thing. I think if we had 15, 20 scholarships, then you'd see college baseball being played at a much higher level on the field, and you'd see more kids coming to college instead of signing a professional contract out of high school.
And I would hope that happens soon. I really do. I hope for you and every college coach in the country and as fans. I mean, we want to see the best players come out of high school. A lot of them go to college and see them. And here's the thing. When you're getting a lot of your players, like all these other colleges, the polished ones are going pro. The polished ones, the guys that are just, the most polished catchers, the most polished relievers, the most polished left-handers. You're getting a lot of guys that you have to develop. And they're not going to be polished, week 1 or week 2 of a season like a lot of our fans, in this, we got some great fans in Louisiana and all over the country, but there's a lot of development going on with your staff.
Well, that's the point I make. And again, we have a freshman by the name of Dylan Cruz. He's a really good defensive player. He runs good. He's got a strong arm. He can hit with power. Alex Bregman came to school. He's an outstanding defensive player. He could run. He has a good arm. He could hit with power. DJ LeMahieu, Gold Glove winner, great major league leading batting average. The all-around player. But typically, you don't get those kind of players to come to college. Typically, the 5-tool guys are going to be signed up into professional baseball, and you end up with a player that maybe is a good hitter but can't play defense at an elite level, or he plays elite defense, but he's not strong enough and swing the bat with the kind of authority. So a lot of times as college coaches, we have to decide, when you're putting your team together at this position, are you willing to sacrifice offense for defense, or are you willing to sacrifice defense for offense? And so it keeps you from having a team that is without weakness, so to speak. And if you're fortunate enough to hold on to enough guys or develop those guys, and they get some experience and age behind them, where you're good on the mound, you're good defensively, and you can hit, well, those are the teams that go to Omaha and compete for the national championship. And, fortunately, we've had enough teams that have been able to do that, but, we'd like to do it more frequently, of course, but sometimes, it just creates a little bit of a void. The last couple of years, we've had some bad luck in losing shortstops, for example. We had one boy by the name of Bryce Terang, and promise. I got off the phone with him one day, and I knew it was, middle of July, and I said, "Oh, this kid is coming to school." And 2 days later, he signed with Milwaukee Brewers for $3 million.
Right. Yeah.
We had another kid named
Yeah.
Christian Kyra that actually came to summer school, was attending summer school.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, so he gets drafted and somebody offered him $1 million and he left.
He's getting books and then he's gone the same day. Yeah. So.
And that honestly happened. And so, all of a sudden now you're scrambling trying to find shortstops, and so you're a little bit concerned that maybe we don't make a play here or there. And it's easy to sit in the stands. Well, why don't they have a better shortstop that can make the play? But we did, but they're playing an A-ball somewhere in Walla Walla, Washington.
Right. And Coach, I'm seeing them every day in the majors. Like Joey Gallo with Texas Rangers. He was a signee.
He signed. Joey Gallo signed with us.
The Shields, and there's several of
Shields.
them.
Trevor Story.
Yeah, just tons of them.
I could run down an entire list of guys that you could imagine.
An all-star team, yeah.
If they would have all come to school. Joey Gallo was in the same recruiting class with Alex Bregman.
Oh gosh, wow. I wish nothing bad, but maybe if he would have sprained his ankle and missed the season, you would have got him. I don't know, but
Well, that's what happened to Bregman. Bregman broke his finger the first day of the season and missed his whole senior high school season. That's the only reason he came to college. So his misfortune turned into our good fortune, but ultimately was really Alex's good fortune because by coming to college, he had a great experience, and he actually improved his draft stock. He was the second pick in the draft and signed for almost $6 million.
Yeah, and Albuquerque, New Mexico native, all the way to Albuquerque.
No, that's right.
Coach, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want you to talk about, we can't talk about recruits, but we can talk about high school programs in Louisiana and also your team. Congratulations on your win last night, which the show will actually air on Friday. So when people hear this, you'll be playing another series. It never stops with baseball games. You don't get a lot of rest. Midweek games, weekend games. We'll be right back. We're going to have Coach Paul Mainieri, a little bit more at Coach Paul Mainieri, and we'll be right back. So, hey, guys, just wanted to take a minute to tell you about Harvey Autos. If you need a new or used car, there's 3 great dealerships right here worth checking out. John Harvey Toyota, Harvey Subaru, and Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City. Low prices, honest people. Tell them Lee sent you. Welcome back. You're listening to Sports Scouting Report. Our guest is head coach Paul Mainieri, LSU Baseball. Coach, Louisiana's got some great high school programs for baseball. Barb, obviously, Sam Houston, Ouachita Christian, Jesuit, Brother Martin, Slidell, Rummel, Archbishop Rummel, Airline. We can go on and on and on. There's some great quality programs and coaching in this state, right?
Well, yeah, you miss some of them. There's no doubt about that. But the Louisiana players have always, been the cornerstone of our program here at LSU, and will always be. These kids grow up loving the state. They love LSU. I tell people sometimes kids want to be a LSU Tiger more than they want to be a Detroit Tiger, and because of their passion for LSU and coming to the box. You mentioned when you were young how you came to Alec Box Stadium, and I have pictures all over my office of youngsters that came to our camp that I had pictures taken with them when they were 9, 10 years old, and then they came here and played for me at LSU, and a picture of me with them. Me and Cole Freeman standing together in the dugout in Omaha. They're having a picture right next to us at our baseball camp. So, this is a wonderful state, and it produces great baseball. The population is not as dense as a state like Florida or Texas or California.
Right.
So there's not as many because the population is not as great.
Right.
But I like to feel like we, attract, the very best players from the state of Louisiana, and they want to come here and help LSU, be great. I feel like our best days are ahead of us, Lee. We've obviously the history here is unbelievable. When Skip Bertman came here, he transformed the program into, the top program in the country, 5 national championships in a decade. He made a lot of people take college baseball serious, especially in the SEC. And so now the SEC has 14 teams that all are capable of winning the championship. And if you're capable of winning the SEC championship, you're capable of winning the national championship. So it's made it harder but it's made it better.
Right.
The competition is outstanding. The polls came out this week. Can you imagine that the top 3 teams in the nation are SEC teams? The 5th team is the SEC team. The 7th team is an SEC team.
Brutal.
The 11th team is an SEC team. And this is what you compete against weekend in and weekend out. It's like it's a game of the century every weekend. And
even even the midweek games, Coach, are all the all-star guys that you just can't offer scholarships to. There's just so many.
Well, when they put the limits on the rosters about 14 years ago, Lee, and you always were limited by 11.7, but then when they made you give at least 25% and they limited you to 27 guys on scholarship and 35 on your team, that meant that a lot of players started to go to the quote-unquote mid-major schools. And so it really strengthened college baseball across the whole state. I mean, we played UL last night over in Lafayette, and we had a good victory for us. But they had just beaten Tulane twice on the weekend over in New Orleans, and then they beat Louisiana Tech the night before they beat us. And they've got an outstanding team. We play all the teams in the state, and I always get a lot of gratitude from all the coaches that we do that. But that was something that Skip Bertman told me when he hired me to become the coach at LSU. He thought it was important that LSU play all the schools in the state, and that helps promote college baseball. It makes people take baseball serious. I know the coaches, they're all my friends, of all these coaches around the state, and I admire the job that they all do. And there's good baseball throughout the state of Louisiana.
I want to mention this before we go to one more break and bring Coach back, is that some more programs in the high school level that are great in Louisiana. West Monroe, obviously, Captain Shreve, Destrehan, Catholic High Baton Rouge, Houghton, and Neville. We can't mention all of them, but those are some
you
more.
Still miss some.
I still miss some. There's about 50 great ones, but I'm getting them out each break. And but I mean, it's every midweek game. You're starting a midweek pitcher and not your rotation. They're starting a rotation guy. It's their Super Bowl just about every week. But I'm glad y'all do that. But we're gonna take a break. When we come back, let's talk about Coach's team. I'm gonna ask you about some players, and at the end of the show, what is Coach's favorite baseball movie? I've got my favorite baseball movie. I'm going to give Coach 3 to pick from. There's about 60 of them. I Googled them. 60 or like almost 70 baseball movies, Coach. It's crazy, man. We're going to
I'm looking forward to that.
We're going to be right back with more of Coach Paul Mainieri.
Parents, are you looking for advice on getting your high school athlete recruited by the right college? Lee Brecheen is your answer. Lee has been doing it for over 30 years. He knows the ropes, and more importantly, he knows the people. Lee offers turnkey service from evaluation, creating highlight tapes in the correct format, and complete guidelines for effective communication with the schools. No matter the sport, girl or boy, no matter what grade your child is in, let Lee Brecheen help match your child to the right college fit. Go to our website, lafootballmagazine.com, and get connected today.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Sports Scouting Report. I'm your host, Lee Brecheen. We've got head baseball coach Paul Mainieri of LSU. Coach, your team, obviously the fans, they want to see everybody hitting 400 after 4 games. Individually, they want to see 100 home runs, after about 3 weekends. But realistically, you're experimenting like all baseball coaches early on, trying to find your lineup, trying to find your pitchers, trying to find your infield relief, who's going to be DH. You have a good problem, though. This roster's loaded with young talent it looks like the upside is the sky's the limit on a lot of these guys. You've had some home runs leave the park with some young guys the last few games, like Jordan Thompson, Brody Dross, right out of Lake Charles area with Barb. Guys that aren't even starting yet are showing a little bit, Coach. And just me being a baseball guy looking outside the window, lot of talent there, a lot in these numbers. I'm glad you've got some of the carryover, like with Matthew Beck coming back, wearing number 8, and this team has a chance to really be a good team. But I'm a realistic guy because I grew up playing baseball, but I think by SEC play, this team could be really good.
Well, I feel that way, Lee. These last couple of games have been very encouraging. when the season begins, the opening day is exciting, but it's also nerve-wracking because
Yeah.
you don't get a chance to play against other teams. We don't have a spring training. We don't have exhibition games like basketball has, softball even. They get to have a bunch of exhibition games in the fall. We don't get that. A couple of years ago, they allowed us 2 games, but you don't get to find out much about your team in 2 exhibition games in the fall.
Yeah.
This year, we weren't able to have them because of the pandemic. So when you open up against Air Force on February 19th, it's the first time you're playing against another team in almost a year. And you can scrimmage and play against your own guys all you want, but when the bright lights go on, it's different. There's no question about it. Now you're really playing to win the games, and when you manage a game, you can really tell who you can win the games with. If you know the sport, and so sometimes you have to have setbacks in order to learn more about your team, and that's just the way it works. You give some kids an opportunity; they don't take quite as advantage of it as another kid. You give another kid an opportunity. Brody Dross, they put it in last night as a pinch hitter, and he hits a rocket out of the ballpark, and that gains him more opportunity. Do you see? And so what you're trying to do is win the games, along with trying to figure out what your best combination is, so that when you enter into SEC play, you're at your very strongest. And I think we have some really talented players. We talked in one of the previous segments about how much the professional baseball draft affects college baseball. Well, this last year, there was only a 5-round draft because of the pandemic.
Right.
And that meant that some kids came to school that typically would not come to school. And we even held on to some players that were already in our program we typically would have lost as underclassmen that came back. So I think, but let me say this also. All the other SEC schools also reap that benefit.
Right.
So it's all relative. But I do think we have talented players, and I do think that these last couple of days we've really improved. Obviously, we had one disappointing loss against the Air Force Academy. But I told our players after the game, we lost the Air Force. First of all, they threw 3 pitchers that, in my 6 years of coaching at the Air Force Academy, we never had 3 pitchers of that caliber.
Mm-hmm.
The last guy threw 98 miles an hour. He's 6'6", 235. I can't imagine him even being able to fit into a cockpit. I don't know how they got him into school out there, but
Planes.
any SEC school would have loved to have had him as their closer. But I told the kids after the game that when I coached at Air Force, we occasionally were able to rise up and beat a top-ranked team as well, and that we should be grateful that our country is being protected, and our way of life is being protected by those kind of people that are the cadets at the Air Force Academy are going to go on and be pilots and warriors for us to protect our way of life. And, when they get on a baseball field, they're going to compete too. Maybe they don't have the talent to win day in and day out, but on a given day, they can do that. Right. And there's no shame in having lost to them. And we learned from it. We had a chance to win the game. We weren't able to hold on. Our bullpen was a little weakened because the day before, when we should have really blown the game open, we just had many, many scoring opportunities we didn't take advantage of. Forced us to use our best relief pitchers. Well, they weren't available then the next day, and that had an impact on that game. But I thought the game against Louisiana Tech on Monday, our bats really came to life. We played a tremendous game all around yesterday over in Lafayette. So I'm feeling better and better about our team each and every day. And we've got a long way to go. We're 4 games into a 56-game schedule. And there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. It's just the nature of baseball. And we've got a lot of young players. We could be playing as many as 4 true freshmen in our lineup and 3 other boys that would be reclassified as freshmen because the season only lasted 17 games last year. When you think about it, 7 out of 9 considered freshmen. There's going to be some growing pains there, but if people are patient enough with them, I think they're going to be really talented, and as the year progresses, they're going to keep getting better.
Coach, I want to mention this. We don't have time to go through each player, but just watching your teams over the years, just me watching your teams and your young arms, pitchers, the pitchers that you have that are young, just the freshman class, not the last year's, like technically, like you said, they're freshmen still, but Javen Coleman, Garrett Edwards, Ty Floyd, Blake Money, Michael Fowler, Theo Milas, Zachary Murray, Brooks Rice. That's a heck of a group.
Yeah. You didn't even mention Will Helmers and Garrett Edwards.
Right. Well, yeah, Garrett Edwards and Will Helmers. But you still didn't even get to pitch Fowler yet, and Zachary has pitched something, and Brooks Rice. But what a group to sit back and see what like you said, what's going to shake out, who's going to develop quicker, and who's going to get this out, and that's a good group, Coach.
Well, we didn't anticipate having A.J. Lavis or Devin Fontenot or Mikhail Hilliard back, or maybe even Trent Bittmeyer. But because of the shortened season and the shortened draft, they ended up coming back. So we thought we were really going to count on those freshmen to be in vital roles on our team. And, by having so many veterans back, getting Matthew back and Aaron George back, it doesn't rush us into those situations too much. But yet, when you throw them in there, you see what you can count on. Javen Coleman, settled the game down the other day against Louisiana Tech and allowed us to come back and win. Last night, Garrett Edwards and Will Helmers were vital. They gave us 5 great innings to start the game. So, the more these kids get a chance to play and pitch, the better they're going to be, and the more they're going to help us even when we get to SEC play.
Coach, how do you feel to have finally 5 players or 6 players for your infield if you have injuries? I mean, you have 6 quality infielders right now.
Yeah, our infield is a work in progress. I mean, Cade Doty is a fixture at first, and freshman Trey Morgan is a fixture Cade Doty at second and Trey Morgan at first. Our third base and shortstop situation has been a little bit of an influx, but Zach Arnold has played extremely well at shortstop. He hasn't had that many chances defensively, but offensively he's done great. You mentioned Jordan Thompson hitting a home run the other day. He hustled like crazy. He hasn't had many chances either, but I'm a little bit concerned about our defense on the left side of the infield just because they're so unproven. But if they can just make the routine plays for us on the left side of the infield and be good offensive players, I'm going to be really happy.
And DH looks like it's the deepest it's ever been because you got so many options to put someone at DH.
Yeah, well, Cade Beloso will be the most of the time DH as long as I'm playing Gavin Dugas in left field. And Gavin had a 6 RBI game the other day, and I think he's ready to blossom and become somebody who can be really counted on. So, there may be days when Dugas and Beloso are the only veterans in the lineup, and non-freshmen in the lineup. So we got to have some maturity out there.
I want to mention this guy because we go to North Louisiana. We've got a lot of listeners in Bossier City and Shreveport, and he's a young guy. I know he's had some injuries, a big guy. Hayden Travinsky. What do you think about Hayden right now, where he's at?
Yeah, well, Hayden has had a star-crossed time here with injuries. He hurt his knee last year and had to have surgery, missed the whole summer, missed the whole fall, and now he's come back and he's got a little bit of sore throwing arm, so he's limited really to just DHing or pinch hitting. And he's had 2 pinch hits, and he got a real big hit for us against Louisiana Tech the other day. Started our rally. Last night he pinch hit, and he crushed the ball to right center field, but the ballpark held it. The ball wasn't carrying all that great. But he's a guy with a lot of potential. I just wish we could get him fully healthy and, put him behind the plate and see what he looks like.
Dylan Cruz, Coach. I don't want to make him into Superman yet because, that's when everything goes backwards, when you get too much press. But you coach Bregman. How do you compare those two? Are they very similar or are they completely opposite, but talent-wise, obviously similar?
Very similar in a lot of ways. They both love the game. They work hard at the game. They have very quick bats. They get power. They're good athletes. Very, very, very similar. I would be very surprised if Dylan Cruz doesn't leave LSU as a top draft choice and be in the big leagues in a hurry. We're very fortunate to have him here at LSU.
I've only seen one player, Coach, and I started going to games when. Well, I wasn't going when you were there, Coach, but I started going to games when Ben McDonald was pitching. I only saw one player hit dead center 419 and make it look easy, and that was Todd Walker. But to see that home run he hit and that swing, wow.
Well, Todd Walker was a pretty good one. Probably the best. Well, he and Eddie Furness were the 2 best hitters probably in the history of LSU. Although I'd throw in my vote on Blake Dean and Antoine Duplantis as well. But we've had some great hitters here at LSU, and I think Dylan Cruz is the next great one, no question about it.
Our final question, Willie, this is for fun. Speaking of swings, the favorite movie that I ever watched was baseball. I'm a big Robert Redford fan, so I like The Natural. I was a fan of The Natural. There's The Rookie with Dennis Quaid. There's The Bad News Bears. We're talking about the old one with Walter Matthau. Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner. That was pretty good. That's probably my second favorite one. And number 42, Jackie Robinson. Harrison Ford plays the manager, and Chadwick Boseman is the actor that portrays Jackie Robinson, the late Jackie Robinson.
Well, actually, the movie is 42.
42, right, 42. But what out of all these movies, what two did you like the most as a baseball guy?
I've watched them all 100 times. My favorite baseball movie, none of your listeners probably have ever heard of it, but it's called Pride of the Yankees. Huh. It was a story about Lou Gehrig and when he about his career with the New York Yankees, and then when he got ALS, which is now commonly referred to as Lou Gehrig's disease. Yeah. I probably watched it 100 times. It's a black and white movie. I've watched it when I was a teenager and a youngster growing up, and cried every time. It's always remained my favorite.
Was James Cagney in that? No, I'm just kidding.
No, it was let me think who played him. It was not Gregory Peck. It's slipping my memory right now.
We're talking about a movie made in the 40s or 30s, huh?
Yeah. Pride of the Yankees. It was Gary Cooper played Lou Gehrig. Yeah. But, Field of Dreams gets me every time at the end when Kevin Costner says, "Hey, Dad, you want to play a catch?" Yeah. The tears come to my eyes every time. The Natural is kind of a far-fetched one, but I can't ever turn it off, to be honest with you. Right. I love it.
He hits the lights like 800 feet in the air with the home run.
Yeah. I really enjoyed 42. I watched that several times. I have so much admiration for Jackie Robinson and what he endured to break the barrier and to play in the major leagues. And it's just almost inhumane to think the things that he went through and how he had the courage to deal with it all and open the door for his race and made baseball better because of it. Any movie that has anything to do with baseball, I'd go for. But I guess if I gave my vote, not of the ones you gave, I'd have to go with Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams. I can't argue with that, Coach. That's one of my favorites. And the first one I ever watched, because I was a little kid when it came out, was The Bad News Bears with Walter Matthau. Yeah. I really thought as a kid that Walter Matthau was really a general manager. That's how little I was. So, but I remember that one, not the new one that came out a few years ago. But Coach, really appreciate you taking the time. You're always scouting, because baseball, y'all might get one off day a week, maybe 2 days with these midweek games. And you're constantly trying to get your lineup and everything ready. But one final thing, when this show airs on Friday, talk about your opponent Friday and what do you think about him already?
Well, we have a unique weekend this weekend. We were supposed to play Cal Riverside. We were looking forward to that, a California school from the Big West Conference, and they had to cancel on us because of COVID reasons, and they canceled really late. So we were scrambling trying to find a series for the second weekend, and there's a website that coaches post that they are looking for a series. So I went right down the list. Arizona, we just scheduled. Arizona State, we can't travel. Oregon, we just scheduled. Youngstown State, and coach tells me, well, you know what? We just scheduled with Nicholls State like 3 hours ago. So I called the coach at Nicholls State and I said, hey, how about if we worked out a little 3-way tournament? So that's what we have this weekend. So Youngstown State's going to play 2 games over at Nicholls State and 2 games over here. So we'll play Youngstown State Friday night, play Youngstown State Saturday afternoon at 2, and then Nicholls State is going to come over and play us Saturday night, and we'll have Sunday off. So it's a little bit of a unique schedule for us this weekend.
Coach, final question. This was off the air. Some friends of mine that are big fans of the program, they had the similar question was, and we can't talk about recruits, but how is it as a coach handling recruiting during COVID on kids being able to visit during the games now? Is that can't do that, or
can't do it? They can't. We can't leave tickets for anybody. We can't even visit with them on campus. No in-person contact at all. Everything has to be over the phone, Zoom. It's been a unique year in a lot of ways, and that certainly is one of the more unique ways. And the dead period just got extended to the end of April now. The end of May. Excuse me. Yeah, the end of May. So so all spring we won't be able to leave tickets for any players or coaches, and just the relationships have to be developed over the phone. It's been a unique time, and I'll be glad when these we get through this completely for a lot of reasons. Obviously, not the least of which is the health of our country.
Right, and I hope, Coach, by regionals, I hope by SEC tournament time you can do that. I hope we can get that back, because I know it's
Wouldn't
nothing
that be
like
great?
Taking it in, the atmosphere of the stadium and the fans, which is second to none. I don't care what they say in Vandy or Florida or these other places.
It's second to none.
It's the best. Coach, again, thank you. Good luck to you. Congrats on your win recently, too, with ULL, which is a good team, and also with your weekend series this weekend and going into SEC play, which will be here before you snap your fingers. Thank you, Coach. Look, don't hang up.
Okay.
I want to end the show. Everybody go to our website, lafootballmagazine.com, and I'll promise you in the future we're going to start having some baseball articles, too. Coach will like that, and we'll start talking to those players around the state. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.